Legend. Right, let's get to it on the, what was this, Tuesday sell again. Break even that ended up running to take profit. Unfortunate week of it. We had a couple of them, three of them this week. So yeah, unfortunate, but let's get to it anyway. So what we've got, refreshing, recapping on the high time frame. We're looking for sells on this trade. Um, Weekly, daily, 4 hour, 1 hour high. Up here, 4 hour leg, daily leg. This can also be seen as our hourly leg as well coming into the week. So obviously, in terms of our positioning, we are due for a retracement inside of that leg. We have confirmed a complex pullback has begun with break to the downside, retest swept, partly decisional area mitigated, break to the downside. So we are now in our second bearish leg as part of that complex pullback. Can see this as a new 15-minute external range, given the fact that this point here did mitigate a partly decisional area, induced a retest and led to a new break. So what we'd had from there, we've now confirmed a bearish price action. We've got bearish momentum. We've got a supply which took liquidity. We've also got the area retested, so the range has been confirmed with the retest, as well as the generation of all that trendline liquidity as part of that new complex pullback. So we've got a perfect structure cycle here. Now, for this setup, I wasn't actually expecting to have this supply hold. However, it was valid to, so I had to trade out of it. Reason that I wasn't expecting it to hold is we were very deep inside of this bigger leg here. We're still right at the bottom. I still had price potentially coming all the way up here before selling off. However, this range was confirmed. So if it sets up for an entry, can't let my thoughts on what the market might do affect how I trade, but we can allow it to come into play for our take profits, which was my initial intention for this setup, as well as the fact that we didn't have we were quite deep and didn't have much of a medium inducement, and we were about to be working against a medium inducement for the trade. So, like I was saying, we've got mitigation of extreme, generation of liquidity. So we've got validated supply, validated range. We also have liquidity targets generated underneath of us as well. So we're good to go for the setup. Awesome. Now we had a really nice inducement inside of the supply area. We had a little break to the downside here, which brought in Asia high sellers. We then induced Asia high sellers and continued to bring in buyers. Let me get rid of that. Took out those buyers with the London Open move. So London Open, we induced all those buyers. We created an extreme area and a decisional area here. Now, after making that decisional area, we did retest the range, looking to utilize this demand area or have that demand area be a smart money trap. However, this is more or less that 50% of Asia area, and we are starting to generate a little bit of liquidity. And like I said, I did believe this area was going to get pushed through. So understand at this point is a medium inducement. And if this area isn't going to hold, it's more than likely not going to hold after we sweep this area and potentially come into this decisional area of that initial first break of structure. So if we read this in the opposing direction, you have break, decisional, extreme. This isn't really retest. It kind of is, but isn't. It's pretty average. This potentially is retest. So we've got confirmed bullish range, confirmed bearish range in an area that may not hold long term. So if we can understand what's the completion of this bullish structure cycle, it's the sweep of this, mitigation of this, hence I'll take profit. Understanding that if there is a longer term bullish context behind it, and this point isn't going to hold, it'll reverse from here. So that was the thoughts. So for the actual setup itself, obviously we've got timing, we've got bearish range. bearish range is confirmed through an extreme, decisional, and retest. We've got our three components. We then have had price pull up, induce the retest, mitigate the decisional, and this is where we get into the actual entry. So premium guys, we're going to drop down here to the 1 minute now, and we'll get into the actual entry itself and how I went about getting into the trade and what I did from a management perspective and why I went break even where I did. And then we'll continue with the rest of the bits and pieces, the outcome. Cool. So jumping back out to the 5 minute, like I was explaining, that's obviously where I got pipped at break even there. Unfortunate one that we couldn't hold through, as it ended up just absolutely melting through and getting to take profit within the next like 15 minutes. What do you do? Nothing you can do about it. Like I was, explaining in my last video, we can't control the outcomes of things. We can just trade and trade properly. Now, big risks that we had with this setup and why I knew it had a high probability of one, getting to take profit, but two, becoming a break even was we're quite deep in the range. Typically speaking, I'd like to be getting in up here, or even obviously up at these highs if we can, utilizing that first area as a smart money trap. That was the initial plan. However, it didn't give us set up for it. So nothing you can do about that. But we were quite low in the range. So, being that low in the range, you do expose yourself to a high probability of this exact outcome. But it doesn't mean we necessarily sit out of the trade because we still had targets to be able to get our 1 to 3 mitigation of that. Oops. At the mitigation of that area, exactly a 1 to 3. Still got potential of it. We're not stretching, we're not being greedy. We know that this area can reverse price. So you just have to wear it and you have to move on with it, and there's nothing you can do about it. You have to execute the trades. The execution is far more important than the outcome. So you just have to grin it and bear it. And you do have to hope a little bit. You got a little bit of luck on your side that you're just going to get a nice follow through and it doesn't want to pull back up. But that's the reality of trading. We don't always get the outcome that we're looking for. But as long as we continue to put in the right input, we will get the long-term outcome that we're hoping for. Price ended up having a good follow through from there. And like I ended up explaining, we did end up pushing through that supply. Came down a little bit deeper, came down to more so a more, so I guess you could say decisional area of that break, a stronger decisional as it induced more liquidity. And that's where we ended up pushing up through. So we did respect that bullish range that I was speaking about that we may potentially have had forming, which did end up being the case that formed with this setup. So beautiful trade, not the outcome, can't control that. Input, good. Setup, good. A plus entry. Can't control the rest of it. Let me know if you got any questions, guys. I'll get to them straight away. If you do want to see the full detailed breakdown of the 1 minute, jump into Freedom Forex Trading on the Discord in the premium section. You better see that, ask live questions, all that sort of fun stuff in there. All right, guys, I'll speak to you all soon.